Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is STRIX, laying a greeting upon thee after a long period of silence. There are reasons for everything, but without mocking about them and meaningless excuses, let us focus on today's video, which is a special one where we shall be covering the recently released Gothic playable teaser and then providing some additional feedback regarding the game. So, for a bit of context for those who are unaware of what has happened, essentially THQ Nordic, who owns the rights to the Gothic franchise, seems to be unsure how and if they would go about proceeding with the franchise. They could start doing remakes of the old Gothic games, or they could focus on a completely new sequel. Also, they have not yet decided how the various gameplay mechanics would work. The combat, inventory, dialogues, well, pretty much everything is subject to change at this point. And thus, they have created a demo of sorts called Gothic Playable Teaser and hope to get enough constructive feedback from the community to see how they should proceed with this project. The game is free and downloadable via Steam right now, so if you are interested, then definitely go and give it a spin, and be sure to provide adequate feedback to the developers after you are done. This being said, and if you are interested in not getting the teaser story spoiled for yourself, then please pause the video and come back once you have finished it, as I will be splitting this video into two sections as mentioned before. First, we shall go through the playable teaser and then dive into the mechanics and provide some feedback. Still with me? On the last opportunity to pause here. Okay, let us proceed with the story then. The story throws us into the kingdom of Mirtana, where King Robar II reigns supreme. During his reign, he managed to defeat all his enemies but the orcs. The battle against the orcs took its toll on the kingdom, and Robar needed more and more weapons for his armies. So he did what any other wise dictator in his place would do, and proceeded to throw every criminal, no matter the crime, to work at the local ore mines of Corinus. In order to ensure that no convict could escape the labor, the king also ordered his best mages to summon a magical barrier around the whole valley. Alas, something went wrong, and now everyone in the valley got trapped inside the said barrier. Obviously, the convicts then started to rebel and took over the control of the whole valley. As the king still needed ore, they had to negotiate a deal with the rebels. The former slaves to the king demanded a really high price on the ore, but in the end they managed to reach out a deal. During one ordinary cargo exchange with a mining colony, a prisoner was sent down with the cargo lift with a simple task to take a scroll to the fire mages, and thus we arrive at the start of the game with our protagonist.
Low risk, high return, they said. You'll never get caught. Of course.
It should be said that the magic barrier around the valley seems to only allow living beings in and not out, and this limitation does not apply to inanimate objects. Hence they have a cargo lift to the valley where they can get stuff in and get the ore out.
What's happening down there? What the? Oh!
During our trip to the valley, the elevator is sabotaged, however, by an unknown party, and we find ourselves in a pretty unfortunate situation at the bottom of the elevator shaft. After dark, without any weapons, no guidance, nor help from anyone, and it is up to us to find our way around. With a bit of luck, we managed to borrow a sword from a guard who has met an unfortunate end.
Right. You don't mind if I take this with me, do you? I need it more than you do at the moment. Come on, my pretty. Come with me. Oh, god damn it. Shit. It's broken. Well, this is better than nothing, I guess.
Or what is left of it, and are greeted to a pretty unpleasant welcoming party. After being knocked out, you awake next to a campfire with Diego, who explains how the things work in the colony and gives you some general advice. We are meant to go to the old camp, which is, as the name says, the oldest, the most honest, and generally the best out of the three camps of the colony, and investigate what happened at the cargo lift. But before we do that, we must get ourselves a weapon, so we are off to do some questing. Soon enough, we come across Caden, whose partner got burned to a crisp and still has a sword stuck in his chest, the poor bastard. Kaidan agrees to let us have the sword if we run an errand and return an amulet to him. And this is also where we start to notice that the majority of the old camp's population is actually populated by backstabbing douches. As depending on your actions, we can learn that Kaidan simply used us to get rid of his old business partners and keep all the proper loot to himself. Oh well, this is not my business to judge. I simply want to get some experience and get the damn sword, so we could begin our juicy quest for some awesome loot. Without diving too deep into the conflict, as we find Source, the man who supposedly holds the amulet for our errand, we witness him killing off his partner and then immediately attacking us, so we have to use our broken sword to take him out. You do get an option to spare the lad's life once he has been defeated, and that quest path gives you a lot more information regarding the whole errand. Also, you get a new side quest in the form of finding some medicine for Source, so I would definitely spare the guy, even if it's just to get the extra experience. Once we return to Kaidan, we can finally get a proper weapon and start roaming around creature dens to clear them out and gather all the precious loot lying around. But once we do return to Diego with our newly acquired sword, we take on a quest to get to the gates of the old camp. On our way there are multiple creature dens to clear out and many locked chests to lockpick. There really isn't a mechanic in place for lockpicking minigame, but I don't really mind. As long as you have at least one lockpick available in your inventory, you will succeed in opening the lock. There is also a side quest prompting you to find some high quality wine for a gatekeeper who is bored deaf.
The thing I miss the most about my long guard duties is a good drink.
But not much else until you arrive at the gates of the old camp. Guard at the gates gives you another errand to run, to get some wolf tusks and snapper meat. But if you're like me, you probably already cleared out every monster den out there and have all the required items. So the last thing to do is to get to the top of the old watchtower and extinguish the signaling flame, after which the gate should be opened. But unfortunately, we never get to that part. Because after you extinguish the flame, Diego steps in and prompts you whether you wish to end the demo or continue roaming the same areas. This is where our playable teaser's journey ends. So what did I think about the game? Its mechanics and the viability of the product development. Firstly, I'm really happy that THQ Nordic decided to release the playable teaser, and if they continue the development of the game, I would hope that maybe they could continue updating the same teaser from time to time to reflect the changes to the game's mechanics which they implement. This is an excellent way of gathering user feedback regarding the product which you are currently working on. Honestly, I like the demo. There is a whole lot of bugs and stuff which is currently not implemented or is implemented extremely poorly, but that is not the point of this demo. The developers need feedback regarding the viability of the development and the directions that they would need to take regarding making this game into a full product, which is enjoyable by its player base. So here is some criticism regarding the game. 21:9 support is lacking in cutscenes and dialogues, although the game uses in-game engine to render them. Also, both are unfortunately unskippable. A ton of bugs are currently in the game, in the options menu, in the inventory management, etc. For example, the video options resets every time you start the game, or if you use a quick select inventory wheel to use a healing item, you cannot simply tab out of it. You have to tab it, then click anywhere on the screen, and then tab out again. There is no separate video options for bloom or motion blur. They are implemented in a horribly over-the-top fashion in this game at this state. The combat feels cumbersome. Very cumbersome. I would definitely like to see other options for the combat mechanics, something that is not For Honor style, maybe something like what The Witcher 3 had. On the other hand, we did not see any magic use so far, so how this would be implemented is just anyone's guess at this point. Maybe this style works great with magic, but we just don't know that yet. The combat camera, even closer up than the exploration camera. This is way too close and focused on the target for fighting any more than one enemy at any given time. And even then, it is too claustrophobic, as you really do not see where you can and cannot dodge from time to time. I like the idea of action cameras, but in reality they work against the gameplay. I find it way more important to have a proper overview of the battle than to have a one-on-one cinematic action scene with someone. And that's that. As you can see, these are mostly simple technical gripes, which can be solved easily and do not really provide really viable feedback. But the combat camera angle and the whole combat system is something that I would really like to see changed. And now a few other things to note. The 21:9 support works great when you're actually in-game and adventuring. Please developers, elaborate on this foundation. The game works on Linux using Steam's own Proton. The performance is not magnificent, but it works. The voice actor works great for this title. I really like the accent and the attitude of the protagonist. He comes off a bit cheesy, but just the right amount.
Okay, easy boy. Let's make it easy for both of us. Okay, calm down. Worst prison ever, definitely.
He's also, just like most of the characters in the game, a bit of a douche, which is also a nice change from your everyday run-of-the-mill RPG heroes. Now to sum this up, I am really glad that this game appeared on my newsfeed and I had the opportunity to play it. There are a bunch of technical shortcomings currently with the demo, and that is understandable, but if we look through the shortcomings, would I be the one who would buy this Gothic 1 remake? Absolutely. I finished the original Gothic years ago, and I cannot really properly remember the story besides the main points like the barrier and the free camps. So I would love to revisit the game with more modern quality of life enhancements and systems in place, and maybe even install the original one again for a proper side-by-side comparison. This also reminds me that in the DHQ Nordic's feedback form, one of the last questions there was that would you rather have the original Gothic series reimagined and remade, or would you rather have a proper sequel to the series? And to be honest, after having played through the Resident Evil remakes, I would say that it is a really tough call. Sure, I would love to have a sequel to the Gothic games, but on the other hand, I would really like to live off the nostalgia a bit as well. But what do you think? Which path would be more viable for THQ Nordic, and which path would you like them to choose personally? Post your answer into the comments below. I would love to get different perspectives on this matter. And that is also pretty much it for this video. I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all the best, whenever, wherever you are. Bye bye.